Welcome into the latest episode of Bet and Pitch, the European soccer edition. We're focusing today on the knockout rounds. As you can see, my Borussia Dortmund shirt. Knockout rounds of the Champions Leagues, and we're in the semifinals. We have second legs coming up. We're going to go through each of the days, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, and then going to throw out a best bet for each of the days, and then pick an ultimate best bet end of show. So stick around for that. If you're not following me yet on Twitter at @the_real_G Warner, if you're not following me on Instagram, Patreon, I already said Twitter, or YouTube, all at @the_real_G Warner. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify after the fact, please leave a 5-star review. And of course, if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. I think that's about all I got to plug to get into this. Other podcasts coming this week, I will mention. Thank you for all the support. And let's get right into it. I do have lines and from earlier in the week, so I'll give you an idea of kind of where these have moved to advanced numbers, all that sort of stuff. So stick around for 30 or so minutes, and then if you followed Instagram or on YouTube, you should see a 1-minute reel coming out before these matches or before the best bet kicks off on either Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll start in looks like Paris, France. We'll start with PSG hosting Borussia Dortmund. Currently, PSG a 1.25 goal favorite right now. All the juice on Borussia Dortmund on the road. Over under is 3.25. Juice is split both ways. And don't assume that I'm a Dortmund fan based on wearing this shirt. I did fade them this weekend. That did not go very well, but they were great to me. Dortmund were in the first leg, taking a 1-0 victory, and are ahead 1-0 on aggregate. Away goals do not count, but certainly do factor into the handicap for this matchup. So we'll see how that all goes. Again, thanks to everyone that's live with me late night with the @the_real_G Warner, though this might be a little bit early than you are used to. So maybe I'm catching some people off guard. So where this number has moved. So right now, an extremely juiced BVB Dortmund 1.25 goal underdogs. That has climbed from a 1-goal underdog initially. My expectations were that it'd be a much shorter number, but I think Dortmund winning the first leg certainly helped to make this number more of a requirement for PSG. PSG were a quarter-goal favorite on the road, closed a quarter-goal favorite, though a very juiced Borussia Dortmund were a quarter-goal underdog at home with a total of 3. So we're in similar range here now. Total's a little bit higher, moving up to 3.25. Though PSG has a need to score goals. It's kind of a change from the number that was put out there for the first leg. So a bit of, I think, an overreaction to the amount of goals that are necessary. PSG need 1 goal to force extra time, which would be a huge advantage for PSG at home in the Parc des Princes, and Borussia Dortmund will not have the ability to match them with that. But until then, PSG are going to be on the hunt. And of course, if they win in regulation by 2 goals or more, they will advance. If Dortmund are able to get an away result, a draw or a win, they will advance to the Champions League final. And in terms of strategy for this season, PSG have already won Liga. Borussia Dortmund are going to finish in a Champions League place. So in terms of next season, Champions League is pretty much guaranteed. It is already guaranteed for both of these clubs, so it's not really about that. It's about getting the trophy, and that's what PSG have been building their team for, knowing that Ligue 1 in France is not really as competitive for them as this Champions League event is. PSG have been to the semifinals before. I'm sure Dortmund, I think they lost in a final to Bayern Munich a few years ago before I was really paying attention. And certainly before I was podcasting at 10:54 Central Time on Monday nights about Champions League. But it's really all about getting a trophy. You can put it on your resume forever. You probably get a medal or something like that, but then you get jobs talking about the sport, even if you know little or nothing about the strategy behind it, and you were just a good player. In terms of the 2 advanced number here, so Borussia Dortmund are now plus 125 to get through, going on the road with a 1-goal advantage. I think I probably spoke at length on our last podcast, specific to Champions League, about how having the second round at home is a big advantage, and I think that certainly holds here. You can see that with Dortmund winning at home, taking a 1-0 advantage or a 1-goal aggregate lead to PSG, and that's still being considered an underdog to advance here. In terms of where this number has gone, so before kickoff, so I have it from April 28th, before the match was played, I have Dortmund at a plus 195 underdog, so near 2-to-1 odds. That's changed significantly. It has come up a little bit since I've been watching it this week. I think the lowest number I saw, or the low number, was plus 118. So 100 US will win you $118. And that was a 65% decrease. So clearly significant when they won the first leg, but it's the literal minimum advantage you can take to Paris. And unfortunately, once that first goal goes in, it's a big problem. Now, PSG are still a favorite because they're a better team, favored by more than a goal. I think it all kind of aligns to PSG advancing here. But I think Dortmund are going to go to PSG and do their best to try to frustrate PSG. I thought based on that first matchup, Dortmund were, to me, I think as the line suggested, were an inferior side. I don't think it was inferior enough to make them a quarter goal underdog, where a draw at home would have paid half a bet to all those Dortmund bettors out there like myself. Even better when Dortmund won straight up. But I think what's probably going to happen here is a very similar, almost mirror image of that first matchup, which probably means PSG has a lot of the ball and Dortmund are comfortable with that. Their defense, I don't know how to explain it necessarily, but it's been much better in Champions League than in the Bundesliga. Maybe because they're not satisfied with draws in Champions League, but they clearly need to win all their matches in the Bundesliga. I don't know if that's a really great explanation for this, and apologies if my internet is going all over the place. My video looks really bad, but since we're already 6 minutes 40 seconds in, I don't know what to do about it. So we're gonna keep rocking. And I think I guess text me if you have my number, or at me on something if you're having trouble, and I can maybe start and restart or something like that. But anyway, in terms of this, I think same story as our first matchup. Sorry to get sidetracked a little bit by internet struggles, but I think I'm very tempted to play the same type of game just because I don't think that there's going to be a big change here. I think PSG, formerly a counterattacking team, now a possession-based team that want the ball, they're going to be in great position to have that exact game they want, and they will be at home for it, which will certainly help as well. I'm trying to turn off my TVs, and maybe that'll give us a little bit better here. That's looking a little bit better, but who knows? We'll see. And I think Dortmund, I mean, they played pretty conservatively, pretty defense first, even at home in front of the yellow wall that Jamie Carragher was into. And honestly, if you didn't see his post-game interviews, they were absolutely hilarious. He said he had 8 pints. I'm not sure how many, but I think the German beer might be a little bit different strength than what he's getting in a pub in England, but we'll see. That's probably going to inflame a lot of discussion, but I don't know how many people are actually from the UK that listen to this, but thank you if you are. Cheerio, or good on you, mate, or whatever I'm supposed to say, because I really don't like England very much. But regardless, we're back to the PSG Champions League. So I'm very interested in a similar type of storyline. I don't know that Dortmund, I have that type of confidence in them winning this matchup, but I do believe that they can make this low scoring and will use their defense, which has looked horrible at times, which has given us a ton of value in Champions League because they've not played like they did domestically, really this entire campaign. That's why they're in the Champions League semifinals with a lead heading into the second leg of the semifinal as well. But I'm interested in that goal and a quarter. What happens with a goal and a quarter? So PSG take a lead. Dortmund are still defending, and they probably are opening up a little bit more. But until then, till they're behind, I think BVB, Dortmund are doing everything they can to keep PSG out. Of course, counterattacking goal is probably an ideal scenario for BVB, but I think they are not going to try to like take too many chances until they're 2 goals behind. I think that plays very well into under here, under 3.25 as well. You don't even push on 3, you win on 3, so that's a big deal. But there's a good scenario where I think I'm probably more interested in under here than I am on the side, because there's more room for Dortmund if they don't score on the road to then have this hit. Though unders have certainly been an endangered species in the Champions League ever since we hit the quarterfinal stages. But unders have been great previously in this competition, and Dortmund, I think, have been their totals have been too high based on their domestic performance or lack thereof, and I think that's been a problem. So I don't think I want anything to do with the. I think the 2 advanced number, I'd want PSG more than anything. Only have to overcome 1 goal. Still are a pretty hefty favorite. If they were an underdog or something like that to get through because they're 1 goal behind in a home match, I certainly would look to that. But that's not going to pop up, I don't suspect, or there'll be so much PSG money out there, or there'll be some explanation like Kylian Mbappe is not playing or something like that, decided he wanted to move to Real Madrid early. Don't see that occurring. So I think for my best bet from this first matchup for Champions League on Tuesday, the 7th of May, I'm going to go with Dortmund under 3.25 goals. I think that has the clearest path to winning in a celebratory Dortmund situation. Also, potentially PSG win 2 or even 3-0, and you still cover the under, but would have lost the Borussia Dortmund side. So now I'll move to the Wednesday matchup. This might be a very brief podcast because I mean, it should have been probably the last week too, because there's so few matches, only 2 to discuss. But a little bit more, I think, and a little bit more to discuss, just because there's so much in the line. So this is the bigger of the 2 matchups, or at least, I mean, they're both one of the 2 that we just discussed is making the Champions League final, but certainly that's the softer side of the bracket. Moving to Wednesday, of Real Madrid, a half a goal favorite to football club Bayern Munchen. Currently, an over/under is 3, juice way more to under than to over. In terms of where this line has been, it's actually been taking some over money. There was an plus money on over before this. When I was tracking this number earlier. In terms of the side here, it's been going back a little bit, but it's very close, only 1 cent of juice difference at BetOnline. If you're not a member of BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, there are links to make a first-time deposit in the promo codes in those links on the podcast description, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube. So go, if you haven't signed up yet. It looks like BetOnline is doing away with bonuses and doing some sort of different VIP program. So I would suggest, if you haven't signed up there, go take advantage of the money before it's gone forever. Though I feel like there's probably cash bonuses for first-time depositors always there. So some money coming in on over. As anyone who listens to this podcast knows, I like unders and underdogs. What's up, Joe Dollar? I know you want me to do overs and favorites, but don't think that's coming in the next few weeks before the season ends, and certainly won't be happening this summer in the international events, the Copa America and the Euro 2024, which I don't think I'm going to make now. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I just don't think I can put it all together because I will be going to Europe in the end of August, early September. But with that said, I think Real Madrid. So we'll go for how this match went first. First half, I was ecstatic with Real Madrid in under, quarter goal underdog on the road. And they had 1-0 lead at halftime. Hadn't played well first 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20, were all Bayern Munchen's, but then Real Madrid ended up finding a goal on a great pass from Toni Kroos, the German international, who I think is coming back to the team for the summer because they are desperate. But then Bayern Munchen had a really good run, scored a goal on an incredible finish from Leroy Sané, which is not something you see a lot from him. Usually he's missing the goal. But one of the 10 he shoots goes in, and it was awesome for the Bayern side. And then a dangle of the leg, really silly penalty given by an out of position right back. That wasn't great for Real Madrid, but they did get an equalizer on their own penalty, which I think was deserved, and got a 2-2 aggregate. I guess that's where aggregate stands coming back to the Bernabeu in Madrid. They skipped the celebration at the Plaza de Cibeles, I believe, the fountains, though their fans were out there because they're focused on this matchup since they knew already they were going to win La Liga. But I guess they could have celebrated, but decided not to. Very focused Real Madrid side here, and changing from, so they were a quarter goal underdog on the road at Bayern in that first meeting. A little bit more juice, but not as juice as Dalton were at home, which makes sense because they were a road team in Munich. But total was 3, and in that one, we have a 3 again here, and it did go over in the first time, and I'm still not a believer there's going to be a lot of goals scored. I think we've seen Thomas Tuchel in this competition. We've seen it also domestically against Stuttgart twice this year. First time it worked really well at home, no less. Bayern Munchen playing a defensive brand and basically letting Stuttgart have the ball and counterattacking them to death. It did not work this weekend, but Bayern were certainly rotating a lot of their outfield players and maybe just weren't as successful with it because Stuttgart knew it was coming. But I think they're going to play that same type of style they have to on the road at Real Madrid. I think there's going to be some tendencies that are going to be tough to break. Bayern are probably going to get out of position quite a bit. They can't have anywhere near the defense that maybe they've had years ago, or they at least were hiding it with a great offense. Eric Dyer, Kim Min Jae. I mean, they've got a lot of problems defensively. Dio Upamecano is a red card waiting to happen. So there's a lot of problems in defense. So I think Thomas Tuchel is going to do what he did for Chelsea in his Champions League title from I think 2020 in the COVID year, and I think that that's going to be the same type of scenario that they go to Real Madrid, which I do think is going to put together or push some, maybe potentially cause some problems for Real Madrid because they're used to playing a counterattacking brand. I think they're going to try to suck Bayern Munchen in. But after seeing some really good flashes of Bayern Munchen play at home in Munich's different than at the Bernabeu in Madrid. But I think it just showed that Bayern can have some success in this matchup. And I like the side getting half of a goal. But I think, again, I like under more here because I think Bayern play defensively. Real Madrid want to counterattack you. And if they don't have that type of setup, then they're going to struggle to create goals, as we saw this weekend, certainly with a completely rotated side against Cadiz at home at the Bernabeu. Good for very little travel for Real Madrid, but I think they're just going to be in a position where they're not going to be able to use that counterattack that they're so good at, which has basically brought them all their Champions League success despite a lot of concern or just maybe distaste for how they played in the league over the past couple seasons until running away with La Liga this season. But I think you could probably point at at Barcelona's struggles for that reasoning there. In terms of how this match goes, I think that's another question. I already addressed where the line movement has gone very little. I guess some over money has come in. I'll be waiting for that. That's my general rule in any big sporting event, especially Champions League, where a lot of people are betting soccer that don't bet it very often. There's going to be a lot of favorites played, a lot of unders. So that does, I think, provide some value on buying a half a goal underdog compared to closing a quarter goal favorite at home. Though it's not a huge switch. I think there is some inflated over home field advantage numbers here too in Champions League, and that's something to watch out for. So, I mean, I do like both the underdog and the under to be fully transparent, since this is a transparent newscast or whatever we're putting this in there to be. But I think in terms of, I guess, scenarios or strategies. So here's what happens. If Real Madrid score the first goal, they are going to advance based on aggregate since it was a draw in München. So that tells me that there's going to be a pretty significant change from Bayern München if they fall behind. They will, instead of playing defensively in a counterattacking style, which is not, I don't think that's what consensus expects. So that's me kind of being out of my own limb, if you will. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free in the comments on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube, or at Twitter at @the_real_G Warner. If you agree with me and think that I'm not on my own little island here, thinking that Bayern are going to play very conservatively, that would be news to me, and I'd love to hear it. From Real Madrid's perspective, I think they're going to have to boss this game. I don't think they're used to doing that, and I think that's going to be a bit of a surprise. And this is going to be blow for blow, but a conservative one at that. I think there's a good chance that Bayern have success here. Maybe if they take a lead, I think they get even more conservative, more defensive, just trying to steal a 1-0 result on the road at the Bernabeu. I don't think that's expected. Carlo Ancelotti's had great success against Bayern, I think, in his career, especially at Real Madrid. I think what Bayern want to do here is float as long as possible with an equal aggregated number. They've been very good domestically from corner kicks, set pieces, and they have Harry Kane, who's, of course, going to convert a penalty if he's given one. I think Real Madrid, if they fall behind, it's not really a big change in their style. Then they have to get more aggressive as Bayern Munchen become more pragmatic and more deep sitting. It opens up Bayern Munchen's counterattack with Leroy Sané, who's incredible pace, plus Serge Gnabry as well. The Real Madrid backline is confused or confusing. Not really sure who's going to play there. Militao playing this weekend doesn't make me think he's going to be a back to start. Also, big questions about Andre Lunin or Thibaut Courtois for goalkeeper. I imagine that it's Lunin's job, but I think there's a very real scenario that Thibaut Courtois starts because he is what has gotten Real Madrid where they are. The best goalkeeper in the world, and it's hard to say that the best goalkeeper in the world, can lose his position for tearing his ACL in practice and training early in the season. So that'll be interesting because rust is an issue here and could cause some big problems. But Thibaut Courtois has been doing this forever, and I think especially after the big mistake that Andre Lunin made on an early free kick against Manchester City. I think that might still be in Carlo Ancelotti's mind, and that we might see. Honestly, wonder if there's a prop out there that says who's going to start, if it's Thibaut Courtois or Andre Lunin. I think I probably would take the plus money on Courtois if it exists, but it's probably very close to even money there. I think juices split both ways if you're trying to make a market. In terms of the rest of the squad, I mean, I think Real Madrid are a better side here, so I don't think that I want to play the half of a goal on Bayern unless I feel much differently than I do currently recording this right before game time. But I'm still very interested in under 3 goals. I think it's going to be a low-scoring matchup. I think it's going to be hard to find either one of these two teams separating. And certainly when a goal goes in, that changes everything because whoever scores is the favorite that suddenly to advance. But I guess we should come to that portion of it as well. Currently, Real Madrid at minus 220 favorite to get through, Bayern München plus 180. So in terms of implied odds, that makes Bayern, the Real Madrid side 69 nice percent to get through. And of course, these lines are not going to line up perfectly, but 36% according to Bayern München's plus 180, $100 will win you 180 US. So that nice little 4% handle there for the sports book. Good for you, BetOnline, I guess. I know most people don't love that. In terms of where this number has moved, though, I'll go back to my other page. So initially, Real Madrid were minus 175 favorite, Bayern München plus 150. That's been, I guess, the initial number that I saw, which has not moved very much, 5 cents. Was a 14% change on the Bayern München side, 14% longer odds after only drawing at home. I would expect probably a bigger change in that, but I guess I that's probably all I should say. I would have expected a bigger number there, so I think there's probably some value potentially on Real Madrid, but maybe the odds makers, betting markets have saw what or did see what they saw from Bayern Munich and felt pretty good about them, and maybe give them a much bigger chance than others have or will in this matchup at the Bernabeu in Madrid. I think Bayern played more of their better players this weekend than Real Madrid did, but we'll ultimately see how that all went. And we'll see what these lineups look like and everything. And of course, thank you all for joining and watching Late Night with the Real_G Warner going through Champions League semifinals knockout stages. So you've come along. It's time for the ultimate best bet portion of the show. And I think it's in terms of other podcasts. So we had a pregame podcast that came out last night, Munaf Manji and I, that did the Sunday night baseball card for all of Monday. And then I have a Tuesday night pod coming out with that A Brooks Bets going over the Wednesday full baseball card. We'll do Thursday night podcast for Friday for Major League Baseball with Munaf again for pregame, plus my other Europa Conference League pod will be out Wednesday night. So we'll be going Tuesday night at A Brooks Bets Baseball, Wednesday night another betting the pitch European soccer edition for Europa League and Europa Conference League, which everyone seems to love. And so many people watch that. It's amazing compared to the other podcasts. I can't really explain it, but if someone could, that's something I would love to see if you slide in my DMs at the Real_G Warner. Thursday, we'll do Friday relevant baseball card, and then I'll do a Friday pod on all the European soccer leagues, top 5 at least that I cover for this weekend's best bets. And then we'll start and do this all over again until the season's over. And maybe we'll add a little bit more. Plus, there's still an NFL podcast that's hanging out there, college basketball one as well, but that might be a little bit delayed based on what's going on with the transfer portal. Trying to figure out who's going to play on what team next year is impossible until it feels like the fall, but we might take an early stab at it. So for the ultimate best bet, I might as well get into it now. Just got to get my video set up, which is very simple, but people are going to love this one. This is the Real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. This is the semifinal stage of the Champions League knockout version, leg 2 as well. From each of the days, I give out a best bet. From Tuesday, I like the Borussia Dortmund as I wear this gift shop kit. Not a kit, actually. I guess it's more of a polo. A weird kind of like V-neck-ish with some buttons on it. Anyway, I like Dortmund under 3.25 goals on Tuesday. And on Wednesday, in Real Madrid hosting Bayern München, I like Bayern under 3 goals in that second leg. So not expecting a lot of goals. There's been a ton of goals across this stage really ever since the quarterfinals have begun. But I expect that will revert to the mean. If you're not following me yet on Patreon, do it. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. The best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports every day, knowing where I'm going, getting the best lines that I'm getting, because I notify you as soon as I lock something in. For my best bet in this episode, Bayern Munich under 3 goals. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. Stay tuned for at A Brooks Bets and I going through the Wednesday baseball card tomorrow, and then a Wednesday night pod going through Thursday's European action in the Conference League and the Europa League. Any tips, questions, concerns, whatever, come through at the real_G Warner on the various platforms. If you could leave a 5-star review, it'd be huge, on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Thanks so much. Talk to you tomorrow night with some baseball chatter, and we'll find some winners for the Wednesday baseball card.